Hello and welcome to Spectrum Geeks. My name is Dale. In this video we're going to talk about something a little bit different. It's these massage guns. So the nice guys and girls over at Abis Electronics sent me a couple of their massage guns to check out. I've been thinking about getting a massage gun for a while. It's a bit of a minefield online, but they are quite helpful for obviously any kind of muscle and sports injuries. So quite often after playing squash, I have a little bit of kind of muscle fatigue, and I've been thinking about getting one of these after a friend recommended one. Now, I'm not a physical therapist or anything like that, so please don't take my words as medical recommendations. But before talking about the couple of massage guns that they've sent me, I will talk a little bit about why you may be interested in a massage gun and how they can or can't help, and a couple of things to consider. Again, just based on my research, I'm not a physical therapist, so do your own research, consult a professional and what have you to make sure you don't injure yourself with something that is helpful to use at home, but if used incorrectly, may cause bruising or more pain than you had before. So what is a massage gun and what is it used for? So essentially a massage gun is an electric kind of pulsating percussive device that you can move gently over, across, or in circular motion across any of your muscle groups to relieve kind of tension and pain. If used properly, they should kind of ease the pain. You shouldn't kind of use them and then feel sorer after. There may be a bit of discomfort at the time of using it, depending on how much pressure you're putting on and how deep the deep muscle groups that you're working on. But ultimately, if used properly, you shouldn't finish up after in more pain. Also, you need to be careful that you're not using it on bony areas. Again, I'm not an expert. I tend to stick away from kind of using certain types of attachments, which we will go into in a moment, in kind of the bony areas, so like the spine and the neck, some wrists, ankles, that kind of thing. You can still use them there, but you just want to be careful what kind of end attachment that you're using. When you're looking at getting a muscle gun, there are going to be a few kind of keywords that may be obvious or may not be that easy to understand, so we'll go through a couple of those right now. So most muscle guns have a variable speed limit that may be presented in RPM or it may be PPM, so percussions per minute. So basically what this relates to is the speed that this end is going to kind of move up and down to pulsate, obviously as you're moving around the muscle groups. So obviously the faster or slower gives you more control over how much pressure and how many percussions per minute or per second is happening on the gun. Another aspect is the amplitude. That relates to kind of how far the percussive piece moves in and out. The more amplitude it has, that typically means you can give a more kind of deeper massage. So kind of keep an eye out for those. We'll touch on that in a moment, but the Abis ones are both 12 millimeter, which is pretty good. Standard seems to be around 10 millimeter, so having a little bit more means you can work this gun a little bit better. Another element to consider is obviously the size of the gun itself, both the size and the handle length. And that helps in a couple of ways. So one, obviously accessibility and how much pressure you have to give and how close to the actual muscle. So especially in awkward areas, things like that if you're kind of doing down the sides. But most importantly, I think with the length here is the ability to kind of get round into the back area and give yourself a good massage. If obviously it's a smaller handle, you're going to be more restricted on quite how far you can reach and basically how comfortable it is when you come to use a massage gun. You also want to look for a muscle gun that's got some varying levels of intensity. So obviously depending on how sore the muscles are and also how much of a deep muscle massage that you want to give yourself, you want to be able to change the intensity. So a good massage gun will have the ability to change the ppm or the rpm and adjust it. Normally they're operating somewhere in the 2000 rpm range. Again, we'll talk a little bit about that and the variability of these Abis ones, but another thing to point out, I recommend that you start off in the lowest RPM that you have on your massage gun, so that you can kind of not get too carried away with the intensity of that massage, and kind of ramp things up and down as you feel used to it, both due to the injury that you're trying to treat or just your familiarity over time. Definitely when you first get a muscle gun, don't set it up onto the highest setting and try and go hardcore, because you probably will hurt yourself. So depending on what type of muscle gun you get, they're all going to give a reasonably good massage depending on the head they have, but it's better to have a variable head attachment so you can kind of be more focused depending on the muscle group that you have. I prefer this kind of air-filled, kind of half spongy one. It tends to give a good massage all around, especially in the more bony areas. Or you can kind of have this kind of bulleted one. Again, if you want to try and give more focus, definitely like in the thigh muscle and stuff, a better penetration, deep massage. The ball head is also quite a good one. Again, because it enables you to kind of vary either from the top to the side. You know, you can basically vary the pressures that you're doing with your massage. And then you get these other ones. I think lots of people think these are meant for the spine. They're not. You probably will hurt your spine if you kind of focus on that, but it's kind of like having the double of the bulleted one, so you can kind of give twice as much deep muscle massage on those bigger kind of thigh muscles than you could with just a single one. So again, check to see what variable ends you have for your massage gun. Both of these ones that we're looking at have 8 in the pack. So again, lots of variety and gives you a bit more focus, so you can be more specific with the massage treatment that you're giving yourself. Another obvious thing to consider is the run time on your massage gun. So most of them have around 2 hours, and depending on obviously the usage, you're probably going to want to use one for kind of 20 to 30 minutes depending on the treatment you're giving yourself, and you may not want to fully have to recharge it every time. And also in terms of charging, that's another thing to think about in terms of flexibility. Some of them use a DC connector like these ones, some of them are USB powered or charged again. So depending on what your use case is, that's another thing to consider, but you definitely really want something that's cordless and rechargeable like most of the muscle guns are. So finally, before we move on to talking about the gun specifically, a couple of things to keep in mind, as I've kind of hinted to already. So your kind of massage session, as you build up to, maybe half an hour moving all around your body, but you don't really want to spend more than 30 seconds, especially when you're starting on each of the muscle groups, and then kind of build up your intensity over time. So, 30 seconds, leave a little bit, come back for another session. Just don't kind of go too hard. And remember, muscles are 80% water, so make sure you keep yourself hydrated, as well as kind of doing this deep muscle massage. It's important to have the right water levels in there, so things are going to recover. Otherwise, again, you're just going to damage yourself. So I hope that little overview helped. Again, the main thing is don't use these on bones, don't use them on open wounds, don't use them on areas that have recently been operated on. You're going to bruise and damage things. These muscle guns are meant for muscles. So let's talk about these massage guns themselves. So both of them come in a nice kind of storage box with a charger. There's a small little LED light that indicates whether it's charging or not, and they each come with a small manual. It's pretty much straightforward on how to use a massage gun, along with 8 different attachment heads, which we will touch on towards the end of the video, because again, they both pretty much have the same heads. Hey, before we go into this review, I should be clear and say Abis Electronics sent me both of these massage guns for free. However, this is not a paid or sponsored review. They're not reviewing the video before I post it, and I'm fully empowered to say what I want and feel about these products. But thanks very much, Abis, for sending me these to check out. So if we start off with the cheaper of the two, this is the FTM19 Abis Electronics muscle gun. So as you can see, it's in like a nice rubberized black color. They're both the same size. This one has 20 different power levels, and I'll show you how you access that on the back of the screen at the moment. In terms of the percussions per minute, that's fully adjustable across those 20 power levels, starting off at 1,100 percussions per minute, moving all the way up to, I think it's around 3,800 percussions per minute. So a good wide range. I would argue perhaps you don't need to have that level of intricacy across 20 levels, but it is an option for you if that's something you're looking for. In terms of runtime, it varies in my experience based on what setting you have it on. Obviously at the highest setting, the motor's having to work a lot harder, so it doesn't last quite as long. But you should get somewhere between 4 to 6 hours from a full charge on this one. The battery in this particular unit is a 24 volt, 2600 milliamp hours. You can take the batteries out by pressing this little button on the side, giving it a little yank. It's in there quite stiff, but it comes out just like this. But you don't need to take the battery out for charging. You just basically plug in the bottom and then you can charge it. This ring lights up based on both the power that's in the battery and the charging levels. So really straightforward. That's one kind of, if I'm being picky, a little thing. It'd be nice if the charger was on the side or something, so you could charge it kind of sat down like this as opposed to kind of on its side. But again, I'm just being picky. It's not the end of the world. In terms of the charging, from a flat status, it takes just over 2 hours in my experience. So, you know, pretty quick. It's, I think what Abis call their fast charging technology. So if you've fully depleted it, it's not going to be that long before you need to use it again. Both of these units at the time of doing the review, again, like I said, they come with those storage boxes. They also come with a worldwide travel adapter and like a small rucksack kind of bag. So again, if you are using this abroad, you have the travel adapter where you can easily plug it in to whatever country you're in and still be able to charge it whilst you're traveling. Because that's one of the main things about these, you know, personal massage guns, is you can take them and travel with them if you're going on holiday away for sports or what have you. So if we look at the back of this particular gun, you can see there's two things. On the one hand side, where you see 99, that is the battery level, and then the 0, which will increase to 20, is that the power level. It's going to vary the percussions per minute. So to get it started, we press the power button in the middle, automatically starts off at level number 1. You can hear it is quite a quiet motor, so like a silent running motor. So if you are having to use this late at night, you're not going to worry that you're going to be waking everyone up. And basically to increase to the different power levels, obviously you can just touch the plus or minus icon, or just simply hold on it if you want to go all the way up through. So as you can see here, and then back down again. And then when you're finished, just press the power button. As you can see, everything's still illuminated and the power is running until you turn it off at the base. So don't forget to do that. I've done that a couple of times. Even though it doesn't really use much idle, you're obviously just depleting a little bit of the battery when you're not using it. But again, 8 different massage heads in this pack. And again, so you've got a wide variety of those. And we'll touch on that at the end of the video as to why you might want to use certain different heads for different things. Okay, so now we'll move on to this one. It's the Abis SCM19. So again, same size, same form factor. You can see this one is a nice shinier blue color. And there's a few different features to this. Very similar weight, same process with how the battery connects, how you power it on and how you charge it. The difference here though is there's only 9 power levels. So previously we had 20, this one we have 9, but wait for it. I actually think that's a better thing. And in terms of the variability, you have around 1,600 ppm up to around 3,600. So it doesn't go quite as low in intensity as the FTM19. And also you don't have the different variable adjustments of power levels, but in my experience, most of the time I'm using it on the lower intensity and kind of up in the mid-range. So I don't really feel that you need 20 levels personally. So the 9 works absolutely fine. The runtime on this is a little bit less, again, based on the intensity. As you'll see in a minute, this has a more colourful screen and a few more features that are running, so it does draw slightly more power. But they have done a good job of balancing that with a larger battery. So again, 24 volts, got a 5,200 milliamp hour battery. And again, depending on your usage, you're going to get 3.5 to 5 hours in my experience. So just slightly less than you get with the FTM19. Again, same kind of charging speed, same thing with the LED. That pulses based on the charge that's going into it and the current battery levels. And yeah, in 2 hours, again, you're back up and running again. So if we look a bit more closely at this, there's a couple of extra features going on. On the side here, just above the battery release button, is something similar you'd have on the bottom of your Fitbit or your Apple Watch. It's basically a temperature and a heart beat sensor or a heart rate sensor. So you can hold your finger or your wrist or whatever you want next to that for I think it's 10 seconds, and it will give a reading both of your current heart rate and your body temperature. Now, I've done a couple of tests with that. It seems to work pretty well, fits in with what my Apple Watch is telling me. So again, I can't say for sure 100% how accurate it is, but it's not wildly off compared to other devices that I'm using. In terms of when you want to turn it on, obviously the whole screen is blacked out except for the power button. So when you press that, the screen comes alive. As you can probably see in the video, depending on the angle, adjusts basically how well you can see the screen, but it's perfect for basically if it's held in your hand, you're just kind of looking down, you can see this absolutely perfectly. There's a few things going on with I guess, more unique features with the SCM19, which is one of the reasons why I like it. At the top of the screen, we have a setting in minutes, and that can vary from 1 minute up to 20 minutes. And basically you can set that so it's like an automatic timer of how long you use it. So if you start your massage, whatever you set to, 1, 10, 15, 20, it will stop automatically. So you can kind of get involved and get deep into the massage without worrying that you're going to go in too long. So that's kind of handy. Again, all touch sensitive. There's a little battery screen at the top there with the number 80. So we have 80% left in the battery here. And then just above the plus button is the current speed setting we're in. So again, I'll just demonstrate that to you. Level 1. And again, same thing, we can just press and hold and go up the different settings. Up to level 9, so that's it on full power. As with the previous one, relatively quiet. And you'll notice that obviously when you're using it, the battery percentage changes. So you can see right now we have 60. So again, it does adapt based on how much you're using it. Another kind of unique, perhaps quirky feature is it does show you calories burned. So obviously whilst you're using the massage gun and activating the muscle groups, that is burning calories. So it gives you some rough indication based on the percussions per minute, the potential calorie factor that is being burnt. Bit of a gimmick. I don't think you're not going to buy it because of that, but I do think it's handy that you have the timer on there, and again, just those 9 power settings work perfectly well. So before we finish up by talking about the different massage gun heads to kind of wrap up the video, I guess I'll just say which one I would buy if I was buying one of these. I'd actually buy the more expensive one. I know that it's got a couple of gimmicks. You probably don't need the heart rate monitor or and the calorie burn thing, but for me, the fact that you I guess have what I consider to be a more kind of linear and progressive power settings. That 1 to 9 for me works a lot better. With the 1 to 20, I'm not using them all in the test that I've been doing, so I go for the one that's slightly more expensive. It's got a bigger battery, so yes, obviously it's more stuff happening on the screen, but I like the fact that you have that timer and stuff. So I would personally spend a little bit of extra money on the SCM19 over the FTM19, but they both work really well. So if you decide to get either one of these from Abis Electronics, you will be happy with it. Okay, so first we'll start off with the kind of ball head attachment. This is mainly recommended for kind of shoulder and neck kind of joint pain. However, I found I like the fact that, again, if I want to do it on my forearm or on the arm up here, I can just kind of roll things up and down. It gives a bit more versatility, but basically this is a slightly firmer area, so you want to be able to use it on stuff that's not as fragile, with direct contacts with the bones. Again, I'm not an expert on this, it's just my experience and some of the research. So the ball one there is pretty good around the neck. It kind of gives a nice firm massage, but not too tough and pointy that it leaves you feeling that you've been massacred and doesn't make you have bruised bones. Okay, this one I'm calling it the Bullet. This one's really good if you have very precise kind of pain areas or muscle groups that you really want to kind of dig into. So again, any parts of the body. Again, I would still, again, as I mentioned before, avoid kind of the bony areas. I'm going to say it's forgiven as we go forward. But if you have a specific kind of groinal pain or something, this is kind of perfect to really much targeting the specific muscle group as opposed to kind of covering a larger area. So that's what the bullet tends to be good for. Okay, and this one is the U-shaped head. Again, I think most people think this is for the spine. Maybe it is, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think actually this is going to hurt if you do it. Yes, if you go either side of the spine, your spine might fit through the middle there, but you obviously have got nerves and different parts of the spine either side, so you want to avoid that. I think this is more like the double version of the bullet. So again, if you've got some targeted pain, but it's over a larger area, using something like this U-shaped one is going to give you a much better result in a shorter period of time without having to kind of double it up and going over there with the bullet one. Okay, the flat head kind of attachment. Again, this is really good for the larger muscle group areas. So on the thighs, backs of the legs, etc. Anywhere that's got a larger muscle group, even on your guns up here. Again, I find this works really well. But again, better to focus on the larger muscle groups rather than the smaller ones because it does cover a much larger area. Okay, so this spade or wedge shaped one, again, I find this is very similar to the double pronged one we looked at earlier. But again, in the larger muscle groups, I feel that you can kind of push and kind of drag along and kind of really provide extra massaging to the muscle. I prefer this one actually over the twin pronged one myself for working in the muscle groups from the time that I've been testing it. It is a little bit more intensive, and again, during the massage process can be a little bit more painful. So again, just try things out, but again, definitely use on the larger muscle groups, keep away from the bonier areas. And again, I personally wouldn't use this around the spine or kind of the shoulder blade area. Okay, then these two, again, to me this is like the multi-bullet, so using the larger muscle groups and kind of joint areas to kind of real kind of massage and move things in. For me, it reminds me, again, don't use it on your head, but it reminds me of some of those kind of orgasmatron things that you can get to massage on your head, but it feels very nice and someone's really kind of getting into those muscle fibers. That's really good. And again, this one is very similar, a few different kind of nodules poking out. So again, on the deep muscle groups, you can really kind of get in there and it's kind of just properly grinding up the muscle. So that works really well as well. So let's touch on the last attachment in this box. Okay, the last one is this. I think I mentioned it before. I don't know what you proper call it. It's like a half ball air head thing. It's got air in it, but it's still got a large kind of area of coverage. This is my favorite one for pretty much everything. Again, it's good to have variety, but if we didn't have any of those other head attachments other than this one, I would be perfectly happy. And this is what I've been using most of the time over the last few months that I've been testing things out. It's good because it has large coverage area, but also good because you have that air in there when you do go near the bones. So me personally, I've had, if you watch the videos in the past, operations on my wrist, and it works really well around the wrist and in those bony areas where something harder would hurt and bruise the muscle, whereas this is much softer and gentle. It's a much more enjoyable experience. So this is my favorite one, and I recommend you probably start off and try this one first if you decide to get yourself a muscle gun. So again, I hope this helped. As mentioned before, I'm not a physical therapist, I'm not a doctor, I'm just some guy that's been trying some things out for a little while, who's always been curious about his muscle guns, and I definitely would recommend one if you're not into sports. If you've stretched or pulled a muscle, moving funny, doing some digging in the garden or something, having something like this at home can be good. As mentioned before, if you're not sure what you're doing, please seek medical advice and advice from a professional. I will not be held responsible for any damaging or bruising of yourself if you kind of use any of these tools incorrectly, but hope it's helped. Again, if you're thinking about buying one of these from Abis Electronics, please use the link. There's a link down in the description. Go to the Abis Electronics website and you can get the 10% off with the Spectrum Geeks 10 code. As always, thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't done already and like this video. Any comments or questions, please ask them below. And again, this wasn't a paid review, but thank you very much, Abis, for sending these over. They've been really good, and you've kind of fulfilled my question of, are these things just a gimmick or do they actually make sense? And I think they're not a gimmick and they're pretty good value for money, and I definitely feel better after some of their squash games. That's it. Until the next one, goodbye for now.
Bye.